Howdy, everyone. Welcome to the Leadership and Dealership podcast, where we strive to share the latest and greatest trends shaping the automotive industry with today's thought leaders. I'm your host, Don Richards-Boeff, and today we have one of my favorite friends in auto, Nathan Hollenbeck, VP of Marketing at Grande Dealer Group, or as we know them, DGDG, in the Bay Area. Nathan, great to see you. How are you doing today?
Fantastic, Don. Always a pleasure to chat with you.
Always, and wish we were in person, but hey, we'll keep doing these Zoom things. Easier to record that way anyway. So let's jump in. Nathan, you and DGDG, you've been longtime partners of Upstarts. For those in the audience who don't know Nathan, which I don't know who that is at this point, right? Or DGDG, can you share the story of Nathan and what led you to automotive and ultimately DGDG?
Yeah, so it actually goes back very close to the beginning. So I'm the son of a car enthusiast, and so I knew at a very young age if I wasn't doing something with cars, I wasn't going to be happy. And so I got into the car business at the ripe young age of 20 back in 2006, and started out, just as a sales and leasing agent on the floor. But after 2.5 weeks, they put me into the internet department. I was in the internet department for a year before becoming the internet director, running the department at the age of 22. And that was right when the Great Recession began its course. So that was a tough year in automotive. I left automotive towards the end of that year to get into banking. Eventually got my real estate license and got into home mortgage lending, and then came back to automotive as an internet director again for another store. That led me to become to work for an internet advertising agency for automotive that specialized in digital. And from there, joined DGDG 10 years ago now, and it's been an incredible journey being here with DGDG. They have really supported me through 5 different roles now within the organization, and I've been now VP of Marketing for the last 5 years. So it's been an amazing journey to get here, and it's been a lot of fun since being here for sure.
Awesome. What brand did you start out with when you entered into auto?
So both dealerships I worked for sold Mitsubishi.
Nice.
And so for those in the automotive industry, that is a tough brand to sell. And so for those of you that are Mitsubishi dealers that are listening, I support you. I know the struggle, and but I think that was also helpful, right? Like learning how to sell the underdog. I think was helpful for me in my career and in doing sales and ultimately marketing. So love it for it.
Learning through adversity. What are some of the earliest lessons you learned before you got to DGDG that maybe shaped, right? Like when you had the opportunity to join a forward thinking kind of tech org, what shaped your experience up to that point outside of the struggles of being a Mitsubishi?
Yeah. I think for me, one of the things that comes to mind is my experience at the advertising agency that I came from before DGDG was incredible. I mean, at the time, we were trying to hire interns that had marketing degrees, and like they didn't even teach Google Ads or digital marketing at that time at San Jose State and things like that. So I got this amazing experience. It was like really getting a master's degree in digital, just grinding it out day by day, learning every different, CRM, how to log into each of them, all the different, SCM providers that were out there, SEO. It was really kind of the beginning of that wave. But I think the big learning and what drew me to DGDG was the fact that we had a client and we quadrupled their website traffic, tripled their phone calls, and doubled their leads. And then they fired us because they didn't sell any more cars. And we're like,
Wait,
what? Are you kidding me? Like, you should be talking to
to.
sales management staff. Like, how are we the ones getting the boot right now? And so that kind of got this thought in my head that I couldn't get rid of, that like there needs to be this greater integration of marketing and sales. And so I kind of decided I would like to get back into the retail side, take what I had learned about digital and marketing and advertising from the agency, but then apply that back in a retail setting where I could be more integrated into the sales process and adjust things that weren't working. and have this better handoff between marketing and sales.
Awesome.
And I felt like that was a better direction.
And so when you joined DGDG, how did you find out about DGDG, and how did they pull you in from
So
such
that's
a
actually a great story.
successful
So,
advertising career?
yeah, yeah.
I don't know, you fired from an opportunity? Obviously not fired from the firm, but
No. So I first knew about DGDG because the Mitsubishi store that I was at was on the same street as the bulk of the DGDG dealerships here on Capitol Expressway Auto Mall. And so I saw the signage, I saw the advertising. I knew, I hadn't met Sean Grande at that point, but I saw him and heard him all the time on TV and radio. And so I had an admiration for the group just in general. I got an opportunity after I joined the ad agency to meet my boss, Jeremy Beaver. And I reached out to him on LinkedIn later on when I decided I wanted to make this journey back from the agency side to the retail side. And I just asked him, like, hey, can I buy you a cup of coffee and ask you? He's the only other person that I know that went from agency to retail, or retail to agency back to retail.
right.
And so I was like, can I just buy you a cup of coffee and ask you why you did what you did? And he agreed to it. And so we met for an hour at a Starbucks in Willow Glen. And the first 30 minutes was me just sort of telling my story and what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
And the next 30 minutes was him pitching me to come to DGDG.
Nice.
And so, originally I was very, confidence probably too light a word. I was pretty cocky back then with what I had done on the agency side. And so I really wanted to find a dealer group that just was struggling that I could go and turn around.
Mm-hmm.
So DGDG wasn't actually even on my radar at that time. But when he talked about the culture and their philosophies and what they believe as an organization, I was just really, really drawn to that. And so here I sit a little over 10 years later after that cup of coffee.
Cool. What was your first role at DGDG? How did they bring you in?
So they brought me in as the digital development manager.
Okay.
And the original reason for bringing me on board was they had 3 different advertising agencies that they were using for SEM. And they were going to either pick the top performing one, or they wanted to bring in someone like myself who understood SEM and had done it at the agency level and that could build a process for the group internally. And so I was really brought on board at first to build our internal advertising agency, which is now a team of 24 marketers that run all of the advertising for DGDG, and build that platform, that process out.
Awesome. So perfect segue. Can you describe again for folks who may not know DGDG, and just hit on the point? DGDG is not your typical dealership.
For sure, yeah.
But shape who DGDG is for anybody who's watching.
Yeah, I think so. So there's 2 key components to DGDG, and that's the culture of DGDG, which is number 1,
Mm-hmm.
followed very closely by technology. And so I'll give you the same sales pitch that Jeremy Beaver gave to me 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So we have sort of 4 core pillars of DGDG, and the very first one is our team members, not our customers. We believe if we really fixate on our team members and we provide them with the best training and the best tools, the best environment, and the best opportunities to do their job, they will fundamentally create a world-class guest experience for our guests. And so our guests become number 2 in our priority of things. And then we believe if we take care of our guests, we will get repeat and referral business from them and from their friends and their family members. And then ultimately from those 3 things, we will then be a profitable organization. And so we're not like, some of the larger groups that you hear about where you're a number on a spreadsheet, and, it's never been like that. We don't operate it based on solely profitability. We care about our team and we care about their ability to provide for themselves and their family. And we take that responsibility on us very, very seriously. And so we invest a lot in technology to create that amazing experience for our team members that ultimately, trickles down to our guests. And so that's really kind of the fundamentals of DGDG and how we think and operate as an organization.
Cool. You talked about focusing on the team first, right? Your team, then the guest. And you and I last saw each other or at a SotuCon, right? There's
Mhm.
Will Guidara closed that out, and when I hear your template, your playbook for DGDG, it seems to resonate really closely to Will Guidara saying, right, unreasonable hospitality. You take care of your people first, and by taking care of your people, they
Absolutely.
can take care of the guest. So did is there? It doesn't sound like y'all took the playbook from Will Guidara, but there does seem to be quite an overlap there. Um,
For sure. Actually, what's interesting about that is our executive summit. We have an executive summit for the general
yeah,
managers and up within the organization once a year. It's usually in like mid-November of each year, and we recently started bringing guest speakers to come in, kind of help inspire the leaders to ultimately inspire their teams when they come back from the event.
right.
And we had actually Simon Sinek and Will Guidara come when that book first came out, and so to have the two of them, so like Simon Sinek's my hero, and so to be able to like, I got to shake his hand and meet him personally, and then he had a sort of a fireside chat with Jeremy Beaver, our CEO, and then Will Guidara came up, and if you saw him at a SoTuCon, amazing storyteller and speaker, and was super inspiring. But our visions of leadership with Simon, and then ultimately, the customer experience with Will Guidara aligned very, very well. And so we very much believe in those philosophies and concepts.
Cool. So let's talk about technology and just for everyone. What's the size of DGDG? How many rooftops are we talking about? Car sales, and you mentioned your marketing staff of 20 something. So how big is the overall org? Just to give folks a sense of how technology is going to impact your footprint.
For sure, yeah. So we have roughly, we're just under 1,000 team members throughout the
Mhm.
organization. We have 15 dealership rooftop locations, and we do over a billion in sales annually, and so we sell roughly 25 to 30,000 cars a year, depending on supply chain issues and whatnot. But yeah, so it's a pretty large organization. I'd say my team, usually when I tell people that I have 24 people on the marketing team, that tends to be the shocker for most people. And so, we do invest quite a bit in what, you know, our focus of single-minded focus. And so, to go and have a marketing, person or team in every single dealership isn't necessarily attainable or scalable and whatnot. And so, if I can do my job well, then ultimately the stores are just left to run and operate the stores and take care of their team members, and not having to really worry about marketing so much on the day to day. We interact, regularly for specials on the website or email blasts, or they kind of give us these are the models that we need to focus on for the month, but they don't have to worry about how do I deploy that strategy. Our team takes that on for them. So, yeah. And then our team has a lot of fun toys here in what we call the E-Suite,
Yeah.
and you've got the opportunity to come and hang out with us here and see the operations. So
It's
it's a really cool feel for sure.
it's a pretty amazing campus, and 1,000 people is a lot to take care of, and a 24 person marketing team, the same. You mentioned people, right? And there's a lot of process that goes along with people, but let's talk about product or the technology side of things. What is DGDG's philosophy about technology? Because I tend to look, and I think as long as we've known each other, DGDG to us is a technology company, not that is very very good at selling cars
Mhm.
and maintaining customer relationships. You aren't the typical dealership. So how does technology play a part in what you guys do every day?
Yeah, so I think there's two sort of key fundamentals there. I mean, we believe that if you can measure it, you can improve it,
Mhm.
and so a lot of our technology is based on analytics, attribution. How do we understand with the data that we have, what's going on from an operational standpoint, and what are the levers that we need to pull at any given time at any different dealership. So technology is a key thing. The one thing that we've said and we've heard other people say about us is we're more of a tech company that happens to sell
Yeah.
cars, right? And so, being here in Silicon Valley, I think we have to have that mindset, because the expectation of consumers here in the San Francisco Bay Area, because of all the tech and the instant gratification that you get from those, whether it's Amazon or Google or Facebook or whatever, We just have to focus on technology to make the process better because of the expectation of our consumers. So, but for me, that's fun because I'm kind of a techno nerd and I get to play with a lot of fun toys to figure out how to make this whole thing not just work, but also just work as seamlessly as possible. Right? If I can make it better for our team members, that will resonate with our guests. And I think that's at the end of the day, we do all these things in order to take care of our guests and to ultimately sell and service more vehicles.
Right. So you have a 24 person team. What's your advertising budget? What is a 24 person team in control of across 15 rooftops?
So 2 years ago, I'd say the peak of our advertising budget was 12.5 million.
Okay.
We've done a lot of efficiency plays with some of the stuff I'm sure we'll talk about, the hot buttons of CDP and DSP and things like that. But we cut that down last year to 10 million.
Mm-hmm.
And then we cut that down again this year with more efficiencies to about 8.5 million. So really trying to make it work.
Cutting at that's about a third of your marketing budget.
Mm-hmm.
My assumption is that's not a 1-for-1. You're not seeing a third less sales. Your
Correct.
your efficiency. I assume you're selling as well, if not more, right? Constraints notwithstanding. So, what does that?
Yeah, I mean,
What does that transformation look like, right?
for sure. Yeah, that is the challenge and that is the struggle because ultimately, as the marketing person, I'm responsible for driving the traffic, driving the leads and the opportunities, right? And so you don't want to cut budget, to save money just to shortchange your team on their ability to sell and service vehicles for our guests. So it's really just finding the efficiencies in the budget to where do we move dollars, where do we cut dollars where we don't feel like we're getting the return.
Yeah.
But I think a big push for us has been the use of a CDP and the trade desk, which is a DSP or demand side platform, to not have to focus so much on the expense of general market advertising and really put that targeted message to households that we know are in market to buy a vehicle or households that we have done business with in the past. And so that has allowed us to trim a lot of extra, meat off the
Right.
bone there. And
We won't
really
call it wasted spend, but you're much more targeted now. You've got your
Yeah,
sniper.
there's something to building a brand, and there's something to investing in general market advertising. So I don't
Right.
want to say that it's completely useless, but I think in certain times it makes sense to go heavy on brand,
Yeah.
and certain times it doesn't. And the last couple of years, it's been hard to go brand with lower inventories and things like that. I think second half of this year and maybe beginning of next year, now that inventories are coming back and there's more co-op dollars coming into the mix. There's probably the potential investment to go back into some branding and messaging. But when you have less co-op dollars to offset your expense, you got to figure out how to reduce that expense to get things in line. So that was kind of the goal and strategy.
Yeah. Let's talk about kind of the tech stack overall. So you've got a big presence with DGDG.com. You've done some really innovative things around vehicle acquisition and just customer experience with Sell to DGDG. You've got what I would consider trailblazer and unique strategy around CRM in Salesforce. So those are just a couple of the items, and you mentioned CDPs as well. So can you describe how y'all even started that journey and where you are right now? Because I know we've been a part of it with you, but it feels like you're taking more control of your destiny. So just describe that tech stack to folks.
Yeah, I'd say where it really started was, I think it was almost 8 years ago now, or actually June 1st, it was 8 years ago. We brought on a CTO, Jagdish Rajan, and had a big background in tech with automotive. And he helped us build a data lake on the Microsoft Azure cloud. And that was really going back to that fundamental of if we can measure it, we can improve upon it. But it was so hard to measure it because we had so much data in so many different systems. And so we wanted to get everything into one place so we could build our own dashboarding system, our own reporting system. And so that's where that's where a lot of it started, and that was a huge initiative and undertaking.
And 8 years ago, you're talking data lakes, right? So
Yeah,
there
yeah.
are people today that are going, what's a data lake? So
Yeah. Yeah. So that was where we really got our feet wet.
yeah.
And then years later, I was constantly frustrated by a lot of the legacy technology here in automotive.
Mhm.
Because again, like, when you think back to my experience of trying to bring marketing and sales and integrating that together,
Yeah.
I felt like it was just so difficult for our teams to communicate with guests because they're logging into a chat tool here, and then they've got a texting tool, and then they're emailing out of the CRM, and then the phone calls that are being made or coming in, like, it wasn't being measured or tracked
Right.
appropriately. And so I just wanted it to be easier for our team to communicate with our guests. But again, with that philosophy of, if we can do that, it will be a better guest experience overall. But there wasn't, at the time, there wasn't technology that really allowed you to do that. It was you having to log into multiple systems in order to just communicate with your guests to do the core fundamentals of your job. And so I just started looking outside of the box. We looked outside of the box by first bringing in the Azure cloud. And so I started looking at Oracle, Microsoft Dynamics, and we looked at Salesforce and tried to figure out, like, what is going to be this out of the box solution that will allow us to accommodate this need to better communicate with our guests. B, allow us to unify our organization into one system. So today, this system works for variable operations, but our next focus is bringing on fixed ops. When you think about, like, so many of the ways that we conduct business as an industry, right? Like, let's say, Don, you come in and you buy a new car and you trade in your existing vehicle. Well, those the journey of you buying the car and then your trade-in vehicle go into separate
Right.
tools. And if you think about it, like, ideally, your trade-in would immediately go into a flow that would put it through the reconditioning process. If there's the need to order parts, the parts department would be notified within that same system. Like, if we can get all of our departments talking together in one ecosystem, then we get greater efficiencies there. So we're communicating with our guests better,
Right.
we're communicating with our team better, and we feel like the handoff would be greater. And then ultimately, now you get this integration of marketing into this greater source of truth from a CRM standpoint, with all the data cleansing that we're able to do within Salesforce. And now you get even more efficiencies from that when you really understand um, your customer base as a household rather than individuals. And understanding, we have so much cross shopping that happens within our organization because we have 8 stores that are on the same street, right? So understanding what does that journey look like when people are cross shopping, and better unification of that data, and tailoring the marketing approach to that guest based on what their behavior is. And so again, just finding more efficiencies there. And so there was a huge we knew it was a huge undertaking. It was tremendously difficult. It took a lot of time, a lot of investment capital, but we knew that the grass was greener on the other side of that journey. So, and that's so far proven to be the
Yeah.
case.
So the impetus being, again, you talk, let's make the guest experience better by first allowing our team to be more efficient, communicate better with each
Yep.
other, et cetera. Um, Salesforce CRM, it's a journey. And I think folks listening are like, well, shoot, Nathan, why didn't y'all just pick one off the shelf? So that's, uh, you gave a little bit of the reason of we want better visibility into our own data, et cetera. But building on top of Salesforce, I don't think when you picked it up was auto specific. So how did y'all make that decision of, yeah, we're ready to do this? And how long did it take? Where are you at now?
Yeah. So I'm a very persistent individual. I think, Don, you've experienced that over the years of
Once
working
or
with
twice,
me. But
maybe.
I pitched Salesforce at our executive summit 3 years in a row, and then finally in 2021, when we were having record profits and
Yeah.
things of that nature, we decided to use a lot of those profits to make this investment into the technology. And so it's been roughly a 3-year journey in building this out. The first, I'll call it half a year to 9 months, was us doing a lot of whiteboarding and theorizing, like, hey, this is what we know from automotive CRMs. This is what we believe are the pitfalls. But it was a little scary going like, hey, we want to go and put an unproven thing into one of our dealerships that, something that we hadn't had a lot of experience with. That was a lot of whiteboarding and theory. And we were on this journey of sell to DGD that you mentioned earlier. And so we decided, hey, like, let's pivot. Let's build Salesforce first for this process because it's new. There's nothing to break. And we'll learn a lot from it. And we'll take those learnings and then apply that back towards building the CRMs out for the stores. And that ended up being the case. We launched this new thing that allowed us to use a lot of marketing automation. In the past, we used to have a buy center that used to get leads from third-party marketplaces and things like that to try and buy a car. It was super labor intensive. It was people calling 200 people a day, 8-person team to try and buy 1 to 200 cars a month. And so we wanted to try and rebuild that and revision that with marketing automation. And we were able to do that. So we had 2 people buying 50 to 100 cars a month now off of the street. And so, when you think about our industry at large in general, it's just very SG&A heavy. Finding solutions like that are SG&A light that allow our teams to just be more efficient at what they do every day is a big deal. So, it's been a long journey, but there's been a lot of learnings. And, Salesforce, it's a tech CRM. It is not meant for the tier 3 dealer sales process. And so there was a lot that had to be built and devved out to make it work within, your everyday dealership. So that was the big learning curve, but it was fun, and it was a fun challenge, frustrating at times. But now that it's alive and well and working, it's very satisfying seeing the fruits of your labor.
And you've got this deployed across the group now. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, every dealership's on it now.
Yeah. And then have you had other people talk to you about what are you guys doing over there, and how do we get how do we get a piece of that? How do we get involved? Or why did you? Same question though, right? Why did you choose Salesforce versus any of the CRMs that are, say, established, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I think when I go to like conferences, I think it's like the number one question when my friends that I run into, hey, how's Salesforce going? What's the deal with Salesforce? So I think there's a lot of interest just in general in it. We are in the process of taking what we've custom developed and building it into an app on the Salesforce App Exchange. We don't want to take the stance of just hogging this for ourselves. We feel like if we can help the industry at large, then all boats will rise. For us, we look at all of the disruptors coming into our industry, whether it's autonomous vehicles, whether it's, the Carvanas and the CarMaxes, trying to take over the used car game, and the direct to consumer from Tesla, Rivian, Lucid, etc. We are very much car dealers, and we intend to be for a long time. And so we want to help all dealers get to this place of making it easier to communicate with their guests, having a better guest experience, and we want to disrupt the disruptors. That's sort of the goal for us.
So I'm hearing that from you then at some point when your friends or another dealer walks up to you and says, hey, Nathan, how's Salesforce going? You say, would you like to find out yourself, right?
Yes, that's the goal in the not too distant future.
Got it. Okay, very cool. Well, let me ask you, I guess it's a timely question real quick. It looks like the world has changed for auto, at least over the last 9 days. We had a CDK outage last week. I think the news looks good to, at least as of today, that they're getting back up and running. And I think you guys were back up and running a few days ago, at least through workarounds and whatnot. How did the impact, right? We hear it impacted 50% of the industry up to based on CRM and DMS usage. How did it impact you guys? And then what did you see in the marketing realm as far as direct impact of that outage?
Yeah, so we're actually not up yet. Okay. We hope to be with whether it's today or tomorrow. I know yesterday they did a test round with a couple of dealers to getting people back on board. And so we're hoping to get back on board. For us, we're very fixated on technology and efficiency. And so this ripped a lot of that efficiency out of just day-to-day operations for our team, whether it was selling a car or writing service. And we had to go back a couple decades to, writing things by hand. But, fortunately, we have a very resilient team, and we were able to pivot. We had to, right? We weren't just going to shut down the dealerships until CDK got back up and running. And so it's just been greater work on the team, and so super proud of everyone for handling it the way that they have, and keeping the dealerships running and flowing. For me, on the marketing side, where I deal with it probably the most has been, the inability to stock in new cars, whether they're trade-ins, auction purchases, or new wholesale vehicles from the manufacturers. And so we're not able to advertise the new inventory that's come in for our stores, and I think that's been the greatest challenge. We're fortunately able to, through our technology with the data lake, we're able to unpublish cars that have been sold, and so that we're not just generating leads on cars that are no longer in stock, and setting the wrong expectation with our guests. I've been able to fix that side of the equation, but we have some stores that would love to showcase some of the new cars that they just got in inventory, and that's been probably the greatest challenge.
Yeah. Now I know you're not handling the in-store portion of anything, but from what you understand, did your sales process in the store change all that much during the outage? I know you're not getting the latest and greatest on inventory availability, but were y'all able to power through the outage? It's because you've got your own CRM, right? In-store process with Upstart. So was anything impacted as far as how you work with your customers?
No, I mean, probably just, the only real change I would say logistically was just the fact that they had to, really manually sign forms and things like that, not DocuSign or, e-contracting, or the things that we were, had pushed our organization to really adopt as part of our, sales logistics and part of the in-store process. So that was probably the biggest thing. But yeah, I think the fact that, we do our desking through Upstart, we're able to submit, deals through Upstart Lending to get decisioning back. That's actually been a helpful piece of things, to be honest, since, we aren't able to push from the DMS to, Route 1, which is how we would normally go about things. But the process in store is so replicable because we have the tablet process, because it's tied to the online experience. Right. And so that wasn't a huge change for the product specialists and online product specialists. It was mostly the finance managers and the sales managers that had to pivot and adapt. So,
do you think y'all make any changes as an org? Looking at the impact of this, as right, one of our primary systems was taken out for up to 9 days. Maybe it's a little bit longer. Do you look at that as, say, making any changes about how you approach technology decisions, or just say disaster recovery, if you will?
Yeah. I mean, we already invest quite a bit heavily into security of our systems. We use multi-factor authentication. We require our teams to use an authenticator app and not use it through text message. So a lot of our systems and all of our technology is really, really well protected. And then even if, someone at, maybe a product specialist level were to give up their credentials, everything is permissions based. They have very low permissions. And so it would be very hard for them to get access to systems that would allow them to do any damage. And we protect a lot of really sensitive information. So they wouldn't even have access to a social security number or anything like that. That would be really detrimental if that, were to be leaked out for our guests. So, I think it just reinforced our, decision to invest into that level of, security and technology for our organization. Because I feel like you just read it, in the news every day now. So lost their information. I unfortunately recently lost AT&T lost my information, and it ended up on the dark web. And so I know how difficult that is.
Yeah, I read this morning. There was one of the ID verification firms that services Uber and others. A researcher let them know, hey, I can easily access all of your data. So that means Nathan's ID, Don's ID verification, data that goes along with that was easily available. Now, probably not anybody gained access to it, but seems like security investment is definitely going to ramp up with this.
Sure.
Cool. So let's, you made a statement, and it's one I think many of us use. If you can't measure it, you can't improve it. But how do you look at measuring KPIs versus, hey, our staff is number one. Obviously, if they have a great experience, our customers will have a great experience. What are you focused on when it comes to the KPIs that matter? What is best practices in marketing as you've gotten more efficient with your spending? What numbers are you looking at that say things are going in the right direction or not?
Yeah. So I think there's three core KPIs that I look at, and there's a number of downstream KPIs that lead to those numbers. But I look at cost per sale first, and then net cost per sale. So our co-op reimbursement against the advertising expense versus how many cars that we sold. And then one of the things that I started measuring as a result of the pandemic
Mhm.
was net cost per sale as a percentage of total PVR. So, you can afford a higher cost per sale back in the days of 2021 when you were making so much more per car, if it's still, proportioned out right. But then as, inventory came back and profitability came down, trying to stay within those thresholds is important. And so when those thresholds start to get out of whack because, you have higher carrying costs for flooring your inventory, or you're not making as much profitability, you have to start trimming back on the advertising budget typically to make those things work, or you have to be able to get more co-op dollars to offset the expense. And so we look at to get to those three metrics, impressions, views, view rate, cost per view, cost per click, cost per lead, cost per opportunity, lead to opportunity, appointment to opportunity, or lead to appointment, opportunity to appointment, appointment show to sold, closing ratio on leads, closing ratio on opportunities. So because of Salesforce, we now have this new sort of metric of opportunity that we look at, because sometimes the leads are bad, right? If I can't get a lead to actually respond to a text message, a phone call, or an email, was it really a lead, and is that something that I need to really grade my team members on? Or was it something that I need to look at the lead source level to say, hey, I'm not getting that quality of a lead from someone? So we look at engagement rate. So an opportunity for us is anyone that responds back to us, because we know that there's now two-way communication.
Right.
There's actually a real person on the other end of that lead. And so we really coach our team around the engagement with opportunities. And we try to use as much marketing automation to generate the opportunities, because salespeople, in my experience, aren't the best at doing long-term follow-up. At least in the automotive industry. That may be true in other industries as well. But they're really good at having conversations with our guests, answering their questions, and ultimately scheduling the appointment to bring them in for a test drive or to purchase a vehicle. So we want to focus on their strengths and use technology where they could use some help and some improvement.
So you mentioned lots of KPIs that you're tracking, engagement being one of the ones that kind of drives the conversation and the effectiveness of your salespeople. Um, is this bespoke dashboards that you've built, or is this like off the shelf KPI tracking? How do you measure success on the daily?
Yeah, so I mean, I think a lot of those metrics are going to resonate, I think, with a lot of people. I don't know that I hear a lot of people talk about net cost per sale or net cost per sale as a percentage of PBR, but all the upstream stuff I think is very,
Mhm.
very common. I think we have built stuff in our dashboarding system. We call it DGDG Dash, that's built on the Azure Lake. But we've been able to build a lot of those dashboards and reporting in Salesforce now in order to track trends on a lot of those measurements. So, you can find those stats all over. Piecing them together is sometimes a challenge or a really manual process in order to build it into a spreadsheet or a Google sheet or what have you. But we've been trying to figure out how do you automate that reporting so that you can fixate more on the data insights rather than trying to put the data and the insights together.
Got it. What's your favorite channel right now? What is giving you the results of high customer engagement? And you talked about cutting out budget to be more efficient. So where are you seeing the results today?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I mean, I feel like as an industry, like we tend to obsess so much on internet leads, and rightfully so, right? Like we either worked really hard to generate them, or paid a lot of money to generate them, and they're the easiest, I think, to measure, right? And so it's very, very tangible. For us, phone is a big deal, particularly because we've integrated our phone system into Salesforce. So we see all phone calls coming in and out on any lead and on any opportunity. And we've also integrated our call tracking system, Marchex, into Salesforce in order to really piece together the phone call that came in, who it went to. So Don answered the phone. We see from call tracking that originated from AutoTrader as a referring source to our website. And so we can really stitch together like who's working best on what opportunities. But the phone, I think, that's where you're having live two-way dialogue, someone who's on the phone live, ready to work with you. And so for us, I think that's been a bigger focus now that we can more properly measure it in, again, sort of our day-to-day logistical system. And then through the help of Upstart, we're able to see all of the showroom visits because of everyone that's entered into the tablet as part of the process. So before, we were really reliant on manually entered data into the CRM, and we're not really relying upon that anymore to understand how many opportunities that we're getting as an organization and at the individual stores. So I can make better decisions with marketing as a result of that. And I'm not relying. I get to see so much data now with identity resolution. I'm not relying upon someone, in the CRM, they might put it in as a walk-in or whatever, but I see that they were shopping on AutoTrader, and then they came to our website, and then they went through the no-brainer checkout process on Upstart,
Right.
and then they came in the dealership to finish that process. So I'm not relying upon bad data going to the CRM to make a lot of our decisions.
So it sounds like even with all the technology, selling a car is still selling a car. You've got phone ups,
Mhm.
you've got internet leads, you've got showroom ups. So the same
Mhm.
sources as general. You mentioned like AutoTrader, and I'll segue a little bit because you've got DGDG.com, right, where people come in, and that's very brand heavy. You can see
Mhm.
all inventory. You've got AutoTrader out there, Car Gurus. You mentioned Carvana, Cars.com. Amazon's getting into the game now.
Mhm.
How does DGDG see marketplaces impacting and affecting your business? Partner, competition, a little bit of both. What's your perspective?
Yeah. I mean, we believe in the marketplaces. We're partnered and affiliated with all of them.
Right.
I think for those that have done business with us and they understand how we conduct ourselves, like I think it's very easy for us to fixate on our own marketing strategies to drive people to dgdg.com or the individual store sites and get them to communicate back with us and start the sales process or service process all over again with them. But unfortunately, over the decades, car dealers have gotten a bad rap for some of the ways that they conduct business and they, do things. And so for those that haven't worked with us and we haven't had the opportunity to earn that trust, I think the marketplaces are a nice buffer where the people can do their shopping, try to understand what's the right vehicle for them, what's the right price point, what works within their budget, and then work through the marketplace to connect with us at the dealership level. And then I think it's up to us at that point to create for us, we strive for the world-class guest experience so that they maybe don't feel like they need to do that maybe in the future, or it can come directly to us. I think we're also, with the Upstart process, kind of conditioning our current customer base to purchase their vehicle online in the future.
Right.
Again, as part of building that trust through the guest experience. So I don't think that means that we're going to be moving away from the marketplaces anytime soon. They have so much traffic, so much engagement, and so much ability to generate leads. And then for me, looking at click trails, impression logs, and all the identity resolution data that we have access to, they are, even with our own customer database, they are a heavy, heavy, heavy part of the customer journey before people end up coming to our website or submitting a lead or coming back in to make a purchase. So whether you like it or not, your customers are there shopping for cars. And it's your job to do a really good job with your first party data. And at the end of the day, do a really good job with the customer experience. I think, as an industry, I feel like you're starting to hear a lot more of that, which I think is wonderful. I think people are really understanding how important it is to have that amazing guest experience because of all the disruptors that are coming in to try and provide that to take away our customers, right? So,
Right. Awesome. When you think about 2024 and where we're at, you mentioned CDPs. I think for the past year, It's been the year of CDP, generative AI, right, and AI
Mhm.
tools. You mentioned about making like phone calls and basically what we consider IVRs of old, call menus more efficient. What's exciting to you? I think I've heard you say, right, you love what you do because it gives you the opportunity to be involved in so many different things, and if you just stayed still you'd get bored. So what is the thing that has you excited right now, that you're
Yeah,
going
I
down the
think,
path
I
of
mean,
investigating?
yeah, I am excited about a lot of the stuff that's coming out with AI. I think we look at it from a very different standpoint because our number one focus is our team. We are not interested in AI for the purposes of cutting headcount at DGDG.
Mhm.
That is not interesting to us at all. We look at it as a tool to help our teams be more efficient,
Yep.
sell more cars, make more money for themselves and for their families. And we look at it as a 1+1 = 3 strategy. Um, and so that's really the way that we think about it. The more, again, that we can focus on the strengths of our team, serving them up with, warm conversations, or actually just putting an appointment in their calendar in Salesforce through the use of AI, and they didn't even have to talk to anyone, and they get to now sell a car. Like, we see that as a total win, especially in a place like the Bay Area where it is so expensive from a cost of living
Right.
standpoint. So for me, that's really the responsibility that I take on as VP of marketing. Is, if I'm doing my job right, I am helping everyone within the organization get more opportunities, more swings at bat to sell and service customers, to happy guests, to provide more for themselves, and more for their families. And so I take that responsibility very heavily. And then selfishly, the more that we do that, the more we get to grow the organization, and the more that I get to provide those opportunities for my team. And so, like, for everyone that's listening, I mean, just think about the last time you got a promotion, a raise, or a bonus, how good it felt. Why I come into work every day is like getting to give that to someone else is like the high that I look for. And the more that I'm being effective at my role in providing more traffic, more qualified traffic, more qualified leads and opportunities, the more everyone in the organization wins, which is a really, really cool
Yeah,
place to be,
I,
right?
I love that approach. Love that attitude. I know a lot of people think AI is coming from my job, or
Mhm.
CDP is going to make things more efficient. But the idea that you're focused again on helping your staff have a better experience is, I hope that is the direction we're going as an industry in general. Is
Yeah,
that we're just making our people better. So
for
fantastic.
sure.
So we're at the end of June, which is wild, right? We're 6 months through. We're at the end of a quarter. If you had an audacious goal at the end of the year, or you're making a prediction, where are we ending up? Where's DG ending up at the end of 2024?
Yeah, I think, we kind of came into this year knowing that, Q4 of last year was tough. We knew that until we got an interest rate drop, things were going to be difficult. And so we made adjustments to, the marketing budget as a result of that, to keep expenses in line to weather the storm through the first half of the year. Now Wall Street's predicting, a rate drop potentially in September. We don't really know yet. But I think things are going to get better. Like, we're already at a place where we have the inventory that we need to sell. I think consumers, once they feel a rate drop, will have a lot more confidence, if they didn't already. And I think, our manufacturer partners in a lot of ways have stepped up to provide tools for our customers to maintain affordability, right? Whether it's, a really low APR that they're subsidizing, or a really strong lease program. They're helping us make car buying more affordable for our customer base. So I think, we've been able to weather the storm well, even though things have been rocky. We have seen, just in general, an upward trend since November. So that seems to have been the bottom of the market for us. And I think we're excited. We have like some internal projects that we're working on that we're excited about, and that are going to continue to work on that customer experience and that customer journey between now and then. And so I think we're going to be in a really good place, as things really start to kick back into gear for the economy. So I think we're optimistic and excited.
Awesome. Well, let's take the momentum and close out 24 in a great way. So the next
For
time
sure.
someone sees you at the next conference, if they run into you at NADA or whatnot, instead of maybe they lead off with, hey, what's the latest with Salesforce and how do I get that? But let's close out with what I call like a fast five. These are warm leads for the conversation starters the next time someone sees Nathan. What's your favorite food?
Oh gosh, probably between sushi and Mexican food. Those are my two go-tos. If I had to eat one thing every day, it would be one of those two. It's a close one.
So you just heard Mexa Sushi, guys. Mexa Sushi. So
yeah.
last movie you saw?
In theaters was Dune 2.
Nice.
I'm a big sci-fi guy. That was
One,
fantastic.
right? Yeah. Awesome. Last book you read?
Last book. Well, the one that I'm in the middle of is Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty.
Okay.
And I've been really enjoying that so far.
Fantastic. And then who are you learning the most from right now?
I'm gonna give my wife the props on this one. She's a kindergarten teacher, and we have a child that just graduated from kindergarten, and I learned so much about parenting from my wife every day, and that's the thing that's really important for us at this time in our lives and our daughter's life.
Awesome.
For sure,
when we get this in the can, I'll send that out to you so you can memorialize this for your wife. So fantastic.
For sure.
And then your next vacation, where do you want to go? I know Hawaii is a favorite. You've got, the easy access to that, but anywhere else on your mind for where you're headed next?
Yeah, I think my number one is always going to be Hawaii. Yeah. My wife right now is telling me she wants to go back to Disneyland with the kiddo. And so, we'll probably go where my wife wants to go. Happy wife, happy life. So we'll hold off on the next Hawaii trip for a little bit longer, probably.
Awesome. And then how can our listeners reach you after seeing the podcast? Because I'm sure they'll have questions for you.
Sure. Yeah. LinkedIn's probably the best way to reach out. I mean, for those of you that know me and have my cell phone number, just call or text, and we'll go from there.
Fantastic. Nathan, thanks so much for joining us today. Amazing conversation as always. I'm looking forward to catching up with you in person soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Don.
Thank you.